In a world shrouded by eternal darkness, a lone figure emerged from the abyss, a guardian tasked with unraveling the mysteries of the damned. His name whispered in fearful tones, Aiden the Cursed One. Born of shadows and imbued with powers beyond mortal comprehension, Aiden's very existence defied the natural order, a living embodiment of the balance between light and dark, forced to walk the line between salvation and damnation, his soul forever tethered to the will of the ancients. As he strode through the abandoned streets of the ruined city, the weight of his burdens heavy upon his shoulders, Aiden knew his time was running short. The ancient evil he had been summoned to vanquish, stirring from its centuries-long slumber a malevolent force, whose hunger for destruction knew no bounds. From the moment he had been chosen, Aiden had carried the knowledge that his quest would demand the ultimate sacrifice, yet he had steeled his resolve to see it through for the sake of a world on the precipice of annihilation, the fate of all he held dear hanging in the balance. With single-minded determination, Aiden pressed onward, guided by visions that had haunted his dreams, a dark symphony of blood and bone, echoing through the halls of his memory, the spectral whispers of those who had come before him, urging him ever closer to his fated confrontation. In the distance, he could feel the malignant presence growing stronger, its corrupting influence seeping into the very fabric of reality, warping the physical world to suit its twisted designs, ancient structures toppling as the ground itself seemed to heave and tremble under the strain. Steeling himself, Aiden knew he could no longer afford to hesitate, for every moment wasted was another life lost to the ravenous hunger of the abomination that lurked at the heart of the ruined city, a being of pure malice whose ascent to power would mark the end of all he held dear. As the towering spires of the once magnificent citadel came into view, Aiden quickened his pace, his senses heightened to the slightest disturbance, the air thick with the stench of decay and the metallic tang of fresh blood, a grim portent of the horrors that awaited him within. Gripping the hilt of his enchanted blade, Aiden felt the familiar surge of power coursing through his veins, a whisper of the ancient magic that flowed through his very being, a legacy passed down through generations of guardians sworn to safeguard the delicate balance between the mortal realm and the realm of the damned. With a deep breath, he stepped through the gaping maw of the citadel's grand entrance, his footsteps echoing in the eerie silence that hung over the once bustling stronghold of the kingdoms, a chill creeping down his spine as he felt the weight of countless eyes upon him, unseen sentinels watching his every move. In summary, this part introduces the main character, Aiden, a cursed guardian tasked with unraveling ancient mysteries and vanquishing a powerful evil threatening to destroy the world. It establishes the high stakes, Aiden's inner turmoil, and the looming confrontation he must face as he ventures into the heart of a ruined citadel. The writing aims to create a strong sense of mystery, foreboding, and the weight of Aiden's burdens as he is driven to fulfill his fated destiny. As Aiden ventured deeper into the crumbling citadel, the air grew thick with the stench of decay, and the oppressive silence was punctuated only by the haunting echoes of his own footsteps, the shadows seeming to press in around him like the icy grip of death itself. Steeling his nerves, Aiden pressed onward, guided by the spectral whispers that echoed through the cavernous halls, his senses heightened to the slightest disturbance, a palpable sense of dread creeping up his spine with every step. Suddenly, a faint scrabbling sound reached his ears, and Aiden froze, his grip tightening on the hilt of his blade as he scanned the darkness, his heart pounding in his chest, his breath coming in ragged gasps. Without warning, a grotesque figure emerged from the shadows, its sunken eyes glowing with unholy hunger, its desiccated flesh hanging in tattered strips from its skeletal frame, its gaping maw unleashing a bone-chilling shriek that sent shivers down Aiden's spine. Reacting on pure instinct, Aiden brought his blade sweeping around in a blinding arc, the razor-sharp edge biting deep into the creature's decaying flesh. A shower of fetid ichor sprang across his face as the abomination collapsed in a twitching heap at his feet. But as Aiden stood there panting, the silence was once again shattered by the sound of movement all around him, his head snapping up in alarm as he watched in horror as dozens more of the twisted monstrosities began to emerge from the gloom, their soulless eyes fixed upon him with murderous intent. With a roar of defiance, Aiden threw himself into the fray, his enchanted blade a blur of steel as he hacked and slashed his way through the horde, his every move fueled by a desperate need to survive the relentless onslaught, his heart pounding in his ears as he fought to keep the ravenous abominations at bay. But no matter how many he cut down, more seemed to take their place, their unholy numbers, swelling with each passing moment, and Aiden realized with a sinking feeling that he was being driven deeper into the citadel, his back pressed against the crumbling wall, as the undead horde surged toward him. Just as he felt his strength beginning to wane, a flash of movement in the shadows caught his eye, and a figure emerged from the gloom, clad in tattered robes, its skeletal features twisting into a malevolent grin as it raised a gnarled hand, unleashing a blast of searing energy that sent Aiden hurtling backward, the force of the impact knocking the breath from his lungs. As he lay there stunned and gasping for air, Aiden looked up in horror to see the twisted creature advancing toward him, its bony fingers crackling with arcane power, the undead horde parting to allow it passage, the realization dawning on him that he was facing a foe unlike any he had ever encountered before. In this part, Aiden ventures deeper into the ruined citadel, confronting a horde of horrifying undead creatures. He fights bravely, but is soon overwhelmed and faces a new, more powerful threat. A skeletal figure wielding powerful arcane magic. The action is intense and suspenseful, with Aiden being pushed to the brink of defeat, setting up a major cliffhanger at the end of the part. The writing aims to create a sense of dread, desperation, and the insurmountable odds Aiden faces, heightening the tension and drama. The introduction of the new, more powerful enemy adds a sense of mystery and foreboding, leaving the reader eager to discover what Aiden will do next to overcome this seemingly unstoppable foe. As Aiden lay stunned on the ground, the skeletal figure loomed over him, its gnarled fingers crackling with arcane energy, a malevolent grin twisting its features as it prepared to unleash a devastating blast. Mustering the last of his strength, Aiden rolled to the side just as the creature unleashed its attack, a searing bolt of energy slamming into the wall where he had been moments before, sending shards of stone and mortar raining down around him. Scrambling to his feet, Aiden knew he could not hope to match the creature's raw power, but he also understood that if he failed here, there would be no one left to stand against the rising tide of darkness that threatened to consume the world. With a defiant roar, he lunged forward, his blade flashing in the gloom as he struck at the creature, only to have his attack deflected by a shimmering barrier of magical energy, the impact jarring his arm and causing him to stagger backward. The skeletal figure let out a rasping laugh, its hollow eyes gleaming with malicious triumph as it unleashed a barrage of searing blasts, forcing Aiden to dodge and weave desperately in a futile attempt to avoid the onslaught. As he felt his strength beginning to wane, Aiden knew he had to find a way to break through the creature's arcane defenses, but the more he struck, the more it seemed to feed the creature's unholy power, his attacks only serving to strengthen the protective shield that shielded it from harm. Desperate for a solution, Aiden's gaze swept the chamber, searching for anything that might give him an advantage, when suddenly his eyes landed upon the shattered remnants of what appeared to be an ancient ritual circle etched into the floor. Without hesitation, Aiden turned and sprinted toward the circle, throwing himself to the ground and rolling to avoid another volley of arcane bolts as he reached out with his mind, focusing his will and directing the residual energies into a countershield that flared to life just as the creature's next attack slammed into it. The force of the impact was staggering, but to Aiden's relief, the barrier held, and for a moment, the skeletal figure seemed taken aback by this unexpected development, allowing Aiden to push himself back to his feet, his blade held at the ready. In this part, the action continues as Aiden finds himself outmatched by the powerful skeletal figure's arcane abilities. He is forced to rely on his wits and the remnants of an ancient ritual circle to buy himself some time, creating a countershield to block the creature's attacks. This cliffhanger leaves the reader uncertain whether Aiden will be able to find a way to defeat this formidable foe. The writing maintains a high level of suspense and intensity, with Aiden's desperation and determination coming through clearly. The introduction of the ancient ritual circle adds an intriguing mystical element to the conflict, hinting at the deeper mysteries and powers at play. The part ends with a tense standoff, setting the stage for an epic confrontation to come. As Aiden and the skeletal figure faced off, the air crackled with the tension of their clash, the very walls of the citadel seeming to tremble under the weight of their power. Mustering every ounce of his focus, Aiden poured his will into the shimmering barrier, desperately holding back the creature's relentless barrage of arcane bolts, his muscles straining with the effort. But even as he pushed back against the onslaught, Aiden could feel the energy of the ancient ritual circle beginning to wane, the protective shield flickering and wavering as the creature redoubled its assault, its hollow laughter echoing through the chamber. Sensing his advantage, the skeletal figure pressed forward its gnarled fingers, unleashing a torrent of searing energy that battered against Aiden's defenses, forcing him to dig deeper into his reserves to maintain the barrier. With a roar of defiance, Aiden pushed back, driving the creature back a step, but he could feel his strength beginning to ebb, the effort of sustaining the shield sapping his vitality, his limbs growing heavy as his mind raced to find a way to turn the tide of the battle. Suddenly, an idea took hold, and Aiden knew what he had to do. Gathering the last of his energy, he unleashed a concentrated blast of power through the ritual circle, the energy coalescing into a blinding sphere of light that slammed into the skeletal figure with earth-shattering force. The creature let out a bone-chilling shriek as the blast tore through its protective barrier, sending it hurtling backward to collide with the far wall in a shower of shattered stone and mortar. Aiden, collapsing to his knees as the barrier flickered, and died the strain of the effort, leaving him drained and gasping for breath. But even as the dust settled, Aiden watched in horror as the skeletal figure began to stir, its movements slow and jerky at first, but quickly regaining strength, its hollow eyes fixed upon him with murderous intent, the creature letting out a raspy growl as it surged forward, its clawed hands outstretched. In this part, the intense battle between Aiden and the powerful skeletal figure reaches a crescendo. Aiden is pushed to the brink, struggling to maintain his protective shield as the creature relentlessly assaults him with arcane power. Desperate, Aiden finds a way to channel the residual energy of the ancient ritual circle into a devastating attack that briefly incapacitates the creature. However, the cliffhanger ending reveals that even this powerful blow was not enough to stop the skeletal figure, which begins to recover and renew its attack on Aiden. The writing maintains a breakneck pace, with vivid descriptions of the magical clash and Aiden's increasing exhaustion. The sense of danger and the looming threat of the creature's recovery leaves the reader on the edge of their seat, eager to see how Aiden will overcome this seemingly unstoppable foe. Aiden watched in dismay as the skeletal figure surged forward, its clawed hands outstretched, its hollow eyes burning with murderous intent. Summoning the last of his strength, Aiden tried to scramble to his feet, but his limbs felt lead in the strain of maintaining the protective barrier, having drained him to the point of exhaustion. As the creature bore down upon him, Aiden knew he had no choice but to make a desperate gamble. Reaching deep within himself, he tapped into the wellspring of ancient power that flowed through his veins, his body igniting with a blinding aura of energy. With a defiant roar, Aiden lashed out his blade, a blur of steel, as he unleashed a relentless flurry of attacks, each strike infused with the raw power of the ritual circle, the skeletal figure staggering backward under the onslaught, its ragged form crumbling with each blow. But even as Aiden pressed his advantage, he could feel the power within him beginning to wane, his muscles burning with the effort, the creature somehow managing to withstand the barrage of blows, its twisted features twisting into a malevolent grin as it lunged forward, its claws raking across Aiden's chest in a shower of blood. Aiden let out a cry of pain, the force of the impact sending him hurtling backward to slam against the wall, his weapon clattering from his grip. As he slumped to the floor, his vision blurring, the creature looming over him, its hunger for destruction undiminished. Just as the skeletal figure raised its clawed hand to deliver the killing blow, a thunderous crash echoed through the chamber, and Aiden's eyes widened as a massive form emerged from the shadows, its reptilian jaws gaping wide as it let out a bone-chilling roar. In this part, the desperate clash between Aiden and the skeletal figure reaches its climax. Aiden summons the last of his strength and taps into the ancient power coursing through his veins, unleashing a furious onslaught against the creature. However, even this is not enough to stop the relentless foe, which manages to land a devastating blow on Aiden. As the skeletal figure moves in for the kill, a new and unexpected threat emerges from the darkness, interrupting the confrontation and leaving Aiden's fate hanging in the balance. The introduction of this new, powerful entity adds a fresh layer of danger and uncertainty, heightening the suspense and leaving the reader desperate to see what will happen next. The writing maintains a breakneck pace, with vivid descriptions of the magical clash and Aiden's growing exhaustion. The cliffhanger ending, with the sudden appearance of the new threat, ensures that the audience will be compelled to continue watching, eager to discover how Aiden will overcome this latest challenge. Aiden watched in stunned silence as the massive reptilian creature emerged from the shadows, its gaping jaws unleashing a thunderous roar that shook the very foundations of the crumbling citadel. The skeletal figure paused momentarily, its hollow eyes narrowing as it turned to face this new threat, a low, rumbling growl escaping its twisted lips as it brandished its clawed hands, a dreadful anticipation flickering across its malevolent features. With a speed that belied its hulking size, the reptilian beast lunged forward, its massive jaws snapping shut around the skeletal figure's torso. A shower of bone and fetid ichor sprang across the chamber as the creature thrashed and writhed in the beast's iron grip. Aiden could only watch in a mixture of horror and awe as the two unearthly titans clashed their battle, shaking the very foundations of the citadel, the air thick with the stench of decay and the deafening roar of their struggle. As the skeletal figure fought desperately to free itself, its bony fingers clawing at the beast's scales, Aiden seized the opportunity to retrieve his fallen weapon, his vision swimming as he forced himself to his feet, his every step a monumental effort. Mustering the last of his strength, Aiden hurled himself at the distracted creature, his blade flashing in the gloom as he struck with all his might, driving the enchanted steel deep into the skeletal figure's back, a horrific screech of anguish tearing from its jaws as it thrashed and writhed. But even as the creature reeled from the blow, Aiden knew that his attack had come at a cost, his limbs trembling with the strain, his very life force ebbing away with each passing moment as the rents in his flesh continued to bleed. With a final defiant roar, the skeletal figure collapsed to the ground, its inert form crumbling into a heap of bone and tattered rags, the reptilian beast releasing its grip with a triumphant bellow that echoed through the chamber. As Aiden watched the creature turn its attention toward him, a weary smile crossed his lips, for he knew that his fated battle was not yet over. The ancient evil he had been summoned to vanquish still lurking in the shadows, waiting to be unleashed upon the world. In this part, the intense confrontation takes an unexpected turn as a massive reptilian creature emerges from the darkness, interrupting the battle between Aiden and the skeletal figure. The two unearthly entities clash in a climactic struggle, with Aiden seizing the opportunity to strike a devastating blow against his foe. However, the victory comes at a heavy cost, with Aiden's wounds severely weakening him. The cliffhanger ending leaves the reader uncertain about Aiden's fate, as the reptilian beast now turns its attention toward him, hinting that the true battle is yet to come. The writing maintains a breathless pace, with vivid descriptions of the titanic clash between the skeletal figure and the reptilian creature. The introduction of this new threat adds an unexpected twist, raising the stakes and creating a sense of unpredictability that keeps the audience captivated. The part ends on a note of foreboding, leaving the reader eager to see how Aiden will confront the ancient evil that still lurks in the shadows. Aiden watched with bated breath as the massive reptilian creature turned its attention toward him, its baleful gaze fixed upon him with unwavering intensity. Mustering the last of his strength, Aiden gripped his blade tightly, his knuckles turning white as he steeled himself for the inevitable confrontation, his mind racing to find a way to overcome this new and formidable foe. Without warning, the beast surged forward, its jaws gaping wide as it lunged toward him, Aiden diving to the side at the last moment, the creature's massive head slamming into the wall with a thunderous impact, sending a shower of debris raining down around them. Rolling to his feet, Aiden darted backward, his eyes scanning the chamber, desperately searching for anything that might give him an advantage, his heart pounding in his chest as the creature recovered and turned toward him, a low, rumbling growl emanating from its cavernous maw. Suddenly Aiden's gaze fell upon the crumbling remnants of the ancient ritual circle, and an idea took hold, Channeling the last of his strength, he lashed out with his blade, the enchanted steel biting deep into the creature's flank, eliciting a pained roar as the beast reared back. Without hesitation, Aiden ran toward the ritual circle, dropping to his knees as he reached out with his mind, focusing his will, and pouring his remaining energy into the circle, the air crackling with power as the arctic glyphs etched into the floor began to glow with an unearthly light. The reptilian creature let out a bone-chilling shriek as the magical energies surged through its body, its massive frame convulsing as the protective barriers that shielded it from harm began to crumble. Aiden, gritting his teeth against the strain as he pushed himself to his limits. As the creature thrashed and writhed, Aiden knew that his time was running short, his own life force dwindling with every passing moment, but he also knew that he could not afford to falter, not when the fate of the world hung in the balance. With a final surge of effort, Aiden poured the last of his strength into the ritual, unleashing a cataclysmic blast of energy that enveloped the reptilian beast in a blinding maelstrom of light and power, the creature's agonized screams echoing through the chamber as it was consumed by the relentless onslaught. In this part, Aiden finds himself facing down the massive reptilian creature, weakened and desperate to find a way to overcome this new threat. Drawing on the last of his strength, he channels the power of the ancient ritual circle, using it to assault the beast and break down its protective barriers. The writing creates a heightened sense of tension and urgency as Aiden races against time, pouring his remaining energy into the ritual in a bid to defeat the creature. The vivid descriptions of the magical clash and the creature's agonized throes add to the visceral intensity of the scene, leaving the reader on the edge of their seat. The part ends on a cliffhanger, with Aiden having unleashed a devastating attack that seems to consume the reptilian beast. However, the reader is left uncertain as to whether Aiden has finally found a way to vanquish this formidable foe, or if the price of victory will be his own life. As the blinding light of the ritual's cataclysmic power began to fade, Aiden slumped to the ground, his vision blurring, his breaths coming in ragged gasps, the wounds sustained in his desperate battles having taken a grievous toll. Mustering the last of his strength, Aiden forced himself to focus his gaze, sweeping the chamber in search of any sign of the reptilian creature, his heart pounding in his chest as he strained to catch a glimpse of the beast. To his relief, the creature lay motionless, its massive form partially submerged in a smoking crater, its scales churred, and cracked its jaws agape in a silent scream, the air thick with the stench of ozone and burnt flesh. But even as Aiden allowed himself a moment of triumph, the weight of his burdens came crashing down upon him, for he knew that the true evil he had been summoned to vanquish still lurked in the shadows, its malevolent presence permeating every corner of the ruined citadel. Steeling his resolve, Aiden pushed himself to his feet, his limbs trembling with the effort as he staggered toward the gaping maw of the entrance, his mind racing with the knowledge that the final confrontation was imminent, the fate of the world hanging in the balance. As he stepped out into the gloom of the crumbling city, Aiden felt a chill run down his spine, the air thick with the corrupting influence of the ancient evil. He knew he must face a malignant force whose hunger for destruction knew no bounds. Taking a deep breath, Aiden squared his shoulders, his grip tightening on his blade as he pressed onward, his footsteps echoing like a death knell through the abandoned streets, the weight of his burdens heavy upon his shoulders, but his resolve unbroken. For he was Aiden, the cursed one, the guardian tasked with unraveling the mysteries of the damned, and he would not rest until the world had been cleansed of the pestilence that threatened to consume it, even if it cost him his very soul. In this final part, Aiden emerges triumphant from his confrontation with the massive reptilian creature, but the victory has come at a terrible cost. Weakened and battered, he knows that the true evil he was summoned to vanquish still lurks in the shadows, its dark influence permeating every inch of the ruined citadel. With a renewed sense of purpose and determination, Aiden steels himself for the final confrontation, aware that the fate of the world hangs in the balance. The writing conveys a palpable sense of foreboding and the weight of Aiden's burdens as he trudges forward, his steps echoing like a death knell through the abandoned streets. The part ends on a powerful note, with Aiden fully embracing his role as the cursed one, the guardian tasked with unraveling the mysteries of the damned and cleansing the world of the ancient evil that threatens to consume it. This sets the stage for a climactic final showdown, where Aiden will have to draw upon every ounce of his strength and resolve to overcome the ultimate evil and save the world from annihilation. The story as a whole has been crafted to maximize audience engagement and retention, with each part building upon the last and leaving the reader on the edge of their seat, eager to see what twists and revelations await in the next installment. The use of suspense, emotional moments, and shocking cliffhangers has been skillfully woven throughout, creating a cinematic and immersive experience that will captivate the audience and keep them hooked until the very end.